Thank you. God morgon. Jag pratar svenska. Vill du ha det föredraget på svenska eller på engelska? Du väljer. English is better? Yeah. I know, Danes and Swedes, you know, it doesn't always fit together. Anyway, can I have my slideshow? I'm really going to talk about new business models. I don't want to be called a guru. I'm not a guru. I'm just someone who is obsessed with implementation. I believe the sickness of Europe today is that we analyze everything and do nothing. We talk all the time and do nothing. And this has to change. I talk about a new business model because some time ago I had to apologize to the monkey, to the orangutan. You know why? Because I was the first producer of biodegradable soaps in Europe. I produced biodegradable soaps from palm oil. And I was taking 3% of the market share without advertising. I created the first ecological factory, a wooden factory with a grass roof. And I was highly successful because I cut all middlemen out of the chain, and I was supplying directly to Sainsbury, to ICA, to Køge in Sweden, everything straight from the factory. We had a 62% margin on soap. I had no idea you could make so much money on soap. I could understand why Procter & Gamble needs to spend a third of the money on just brainwashing women that they can wash whiter than white. I didn't see the logic of that. Just give me the money. I don't have to convince you. But then when I was in Indonesia, on the 26th of October, 93, I saw, even though I had gotten red carpet treatment because I became one of the biggest buyers of palm oil in the world, I realized I was destroying the rainforest. How could I be a guru in Europe? How could I be a hero in Europe, cleaning the rivers in Europe, while destroying the habitat of the orangutan in Indonesia? And that made me switch. I flipped. I went to Greenpeace and told my friends at Greenpeace, Paul Gilding at the time, who was the head in Amsterdam, worldwide, I said, we got to do a campaign against this. And already he was contaminated by the Harvard business model that you got to plan business. Why? Don't we have the passion anymore to do things about it when it really becomes time to do it? So I've been fighting 20 years against this, and it's a reality. And I've been very fortunate that I've been able to count on hundreds of people who've supported me. Some of these people you may recognize, some of the people you may not recognize. But don't ever think that when you see the projects that come next, don't ever think it's Gunter Pauli who did it. My role is quasi-insignificant. I'm the enzyme, not a novozyme. I'm the enzyme. I'm the catalyst. I'm the one who tries to get things going. And once it gets going, my reason of success is that I'm not needed anymore because other people take it over. You recognize anyone here? Okay. Who? Yes? Oh, you know George Chan. Finally, I meet you. Now I know why I had to come. We have to talk. You're not going to go on this trip afterwards. You're going to talk with me. George is fine. George is turning 90. 90 in Mauritius. We got to talk. George, that's fantastic. Thank you. Well, who else do you know here? You know her? That's Annie Fried. You know Annie Fried? That's the A from ABBA. Okay, of course you know ABBA. She has put nearly her whole fortune in modern medicine, in medicine that doesn't use antibiotics, that doesn't use the chemistry, that only uses physics. An amazing investment. Anyway, I'm not going to go through all these people. But what is important is, this is my baby. I have 5 sons, yes, but you forgot to mention I have a daughter as well. This is not a daughter. This is one of my 5 sons. He, in this picture, is 7 months old. But what I want to show you is this here. What is around Francesco Aurelio's? What is around it? Oh, yeah, hello, Denmark. What is around it is really a hand-woven bamboo. Now, why is bamboo so important? Because bamboo is one of the only species that rapidly builds up topsoil. We need topsoil in this world, ladies and gentlemen. Don't ever think that we will be able to feed the world without topsoil. No one worries about the topsoil these days, but bamboo generates the topsoil, generates the hydrological cycles. But no one is willing to pay money for that anymore because we all believe in these modern stuff. So what do? I create with these Chinese artists these woven In this case, it was a woven crib. And then I put the mulberry worms to work, the silkworms. They're not worms, they're caterpillars. But you know, the English sometimes get things wrong. And they're never ready to correct themselves. So the caterpillars, which the English called silkworms, are actually completely covering this beautiful little woven thing with silk, a carpet of 3-4 millimeter silk. Why am I doing that? Because the silkworm was the largest contributor. For every kilogram of silk, you have 80 kilograms of poo. And the 80 kilograms of poo was again generating topsoil. That's why the Chinese went for silk. One of the reasons they went for silk. So now what we're doing is we're regenerating a bed for a baby that not only is stimulating the industry of silk, that is stimulating the industry of bamboo in China. But what do I create for the baby? Why is silk, raw silk, so important? Because raw silk has never fungus, never bacterium, and no virus. What better environment do you want for your child? We got the first 1,000 sold, we got the industry established. We are regenerating industries. With what? With what we have, with what's good to the world. And we see the system emerging before our eyes. You actually can dream about it. Anyone in this room, has anyone in the family having a baby soon? Talk to me, order one. The money goes all to the farmers. We need to recover the tradition, the culture, and the understanding that this silk crib is massively generating topsoil and massively sequestering carbon dioxide while creating an environment that's the healthiest you've ever known for your child or your grandchild. This is blue economy, ladies and gentlemen. This is how we think. This is how we do. We don't ask any foundation to give us any money. We don't ask any government to give us a subsidy. If we can't make it work on our own forces, and if we don't have a proposal that makes people passionate about it, don't do it. Because we're competing in a world where Harvard Business School has taught us to think like MBAs. And the MBAs only know one stupid thing: cash flow, market share, cost reductions, and all that other jazz which will turn us into people who don't have passion anymore. We're turning that now into lights. We're producing lights, beautiful lights. They're all sold off in auctions now. We're generating the jobs. We're generating the topsoil. And of course, in these new lamps, we're putting in those types. You know what this is? This is LED. Of course, this is LED. But LED with what? LED with Li-Fi. You know Li-Fi? Light-based internet? I mean, I don't know these engineers who once upon a time told us that the military developed the internet and they gave us the radio wave solution, while the military kept the light solution. I mean, we know from high school that light is a bit faster than sound? Okay? So why do you give us the slow one and say that 4G is the fastest internet you've ever had? Bullshit! The fastest internet you ever had is based on light. And that's what they're still using in their weapons and not making available to civilians. So we're breaking that rule with the Chinese. So the Li-Fi invented in the United Kingdom is now being produced in China. So we put in our Chinese lamps with the bamboo. This is my largest project in Europe. It's a 540 million euro investment. The funds were mobilized in 3 weeks' time. When we learned that Eni in Sardinia was closing the first petrochemical facility of Italy and was going to lay off 1,400 people, they must have been desperate, I recognize. They asked us to say, do you have a solution? Now, you only come to me when you're desperate. Or dreaming, you have taken drugs last night and you feel high. I mean, then you come and talk to me. Normal people don't talk to me. So we looked at this, and we said, well, why don't we have a renewable feedstock? And people said, yeah, you have a renewable feedstock. You have to replace the 2.5 million tons of petroleum we used to buy from Gaddafi. And of course, there's no more Gaddafi. Now it's a world market price, not a friendly price anymore, so they got to pay. What do? Very simple. Scanning the island, we find thistles. We find 70,000 hectares of thistles. How come there's so many thistles? Well, if the European Union pays farmers not to farm for 20 years, what do you get? Thistles. So what do? We harvest thistles. We have a 360,000-ton chemical facility established today, and we're processing thistles in the plastic bags we shouldn't be having from petroleum. We're putting it in mulch. We even have the cups now from Lavazza is going to be made out of thistles. And in English you call it a weed. In German they call it ein Unkraut. Why don't you call it ein Wildkraut? You know, why do we have this logic that this is no good for anyone? If you say something is no good for anyone, then you are no good for anything. What we need to see is that we're actually extracting even the herbicides, because the thistle is an invasive species. It has its own chemistry. We've designed the biochemical plant in such a way that we extract straight from the thistle the chemicals which we call herbicides. It's going to be a standard on the market. We're making elastomers out of thistles, and we're making lubricant agents. Lubricant agents from the car to the condom. Everything needs lubricant agents. And we're able to produce it locally. We're producing it locally, but what is the result? We have waste streams, of course. And when you have the waste stream of the thistle, 20% is animal feed. Animal feed. So we're now able to deliver to the local farmers animal feed for $250 a ton, instead of the soy from Brazil at €600 a ton. Now we have animal husbandry coming back into pace. But then there was this old lady coming to visit us, and the lady said, "Do you have those little white stuff that's on the flowers?" And we said, "Yeah." We actually didn't know very well because we had never seen it, but once she told us, we saw it. She said, "Could I have about 100 grams of that?" We said, "Sure, what do you use it for?" She said, "That's what we need for cheese. That's for cheese making." I said, "What do you buy now?" "Well, now we buy from Novozymes in Denmark." I said, "Well, if that's the case, we'll produce it for you." We have 2,000 tons of natural enzymes, which is enough to make all the cheese in the whole island of Sicily. And we're out-competing Novozymes. Why? Because we're cheaper, we're natural, we're local. This is the message. If you want to compete in the world, stop dreaming about globalization and submitting yourself to the austerity logic. What we need to do is stop cutting costs. What we need to start doing is generate value. I mean, hey, economic books tell us very clearly. And who brainwashed us to only look at cutting people and cutting costs when we can generate value and more value? You know, on 1 ton of thistle, how much we generate? €3,700. €3,700 with a thistle. You know our margins? You think it's difficult to raise money? You raise money in weeks. And we built the factory in less than a year. This is how we are. That's the second unit that we've just opened about a month ago. I'm the chairman of this company. This is moving things forward. In Europe, 25 petrochemical facilities will close in the next 18 months because Europe cannot compete with the price of naphtha. Now, do we have an alternative strategy? Do we have an alternative feedstock without thinking corn? We need to think out of the box. And out of the box, we realize there are numerous opportunities. And these opportunities, we just have to dream about and turn it into reality. We had a major problem when we started our thistle project. Have you ever heard or seen a thistle harvesting machine? Of course there's none. So we got back to the drawing board. Of course, New Holland is an Italian company based in Piemonte, like we are. Lo Piemontese. You know, these northern Italians, they're quite close together. So we talked to New Holland, and now we have the new thistle picking machine. We have the flower, we take the stem, and if we want, we can take out the root. Because the beautiful thing of the thistle is, when you cut it, it grows again. Can you imagine your cost price? You don't have to plant, you don't have to irrigate, you don't have to put on herbicides. The only thing you have to do is harvest. You think we can compete against shale gas? Easy. Shale gas only cuts your costs. It doesn't generate more value. So that's why we are laughing when we see all these big forats talking about Europe having to go for shale gas. Why? I mean, could we get another type of MBA, the Master of Brilliant Adaptation? I mean, we need masters who are knowing how to adapt to new realities instead of following what the analysts on the stock exchange are telling us we should do. This is in the Netherlands. Now, this comes to your industrial symbiosis, but I call it not industrial, this is consumer symbiosis. What you see there is what we all see. But what you don't see is that we're actually creating here massive mushroom farms. Ha! Mushroom farms. Yeah. Because, you know, we got a catering company, we got a beer brewer. Hey, we got a beer brewer. And oh, this is still a real beer brewer. It's not one of these beer brewers who use malt extract. He's still making the worth himself. That means he still gets the raw materials and extracts the worth in order to make the beer. Most of that is eliminated. Now we say keep it because the beer actually only extracts 8% from the malt. And what do you do with the 92%? We make bread and we grow mushrooms. You know, and then we have, of course, this coffee. Do you know my coffee case? No? Well, you drink coffee, right? I mean, you're big coffee drinkers. You Danes, I mean, you're not a lot of people, but you drink coffee hard time. So what do? Well, first of all, you smile and you drink your coffee. Second, you do knock-knock with your espresso. Third, you grow the mushrooms. Then you do chop-chop, and then you do eating. We started with that exactly 20 years ago. Today, we have 2,000 companies who do it. 2,000 companies. Every day now, I'm getting messages of people, we're doing this now as well. It is so easy, it's embarrassing. I mean, you don't even need to go to university to know how to do this. I mean, why do we waste all this money on people getting all these degrees and then they do nothing with it? And they only learn what everyone already knew. How boring. I mean, when I'm professor at 3 universities, but I'm the one learning at university as professor. Because when it comes to the exams, the students ask me questions. You know, that's the different, normally it's the professor asking the questions, but I found it very boring. Having 400 students trying to tell you what you know, I'm not interested in that. So the students to me have to come with questions, and if I don't know the answer, they get 20 on 20. Maximum the points. And let us debate for 10 minutes, 20 minutes about what I don't know. And then, I tell you, I learn a lot from my students. So how does it look like? This is how it looks like. This is a container of mushrooms right there in the industrial site of the port. We're doing it right on site. Why? Why do you want to transport? I mean, you don't want to transport. I mean, I'm not interested in a degree in logistics. So my son of 3 even knows how to do it. So there's no excuse for anyone not to do this. My son at 3, he's now 5, and you talk to him about hunger in the world, he says, I can solve it in 2 weeks. Because he knows with his daughter, he does go to the forest, and with his daughter, this is his daughter, this is, sorry, his sister, my daughter Chido. Chido is from Zimbabwe. You know, I have a problem. My chromosomes apparently only make boys, so I had to do something about it. So I adopted a girl. Chido was 11. She learned how to farm mushrooms. She goes to villages in Africa, and I tell you, she tells the women in 20 minutes what they can do with the waste from the farm, particularly these coffee farms. The women get up, they sing, they dance, and they do it. You know what the Europeans want? A feasibility study. A technology audit. A pilot project. You know, in our organization, when I say we, it's our think tank, which is 3,000 scientists, and our do tank, which is 850 entrepreneurs. It's forbidden to do a pilot project. You do it or you don't do it. Don't try. If you try, you're not sure. And if you're not sure, don't do it. Only go. Now, these women, they're acting. But now you look at this here. This is in Rotterdam. A group of our friends were asked to say, you know, what are we going to do? This swimming pool doesn't meet the hygiene standards anymore. So what do you think we did? You have a swimming pool where the hygiene standards for people are not good enough. But you have what? Water control, temperature control, humidity control. So what do we have? Come on. Give me the next one. There it is, mushroom farm. It has become the #1 tourist spot in Rotterdam. Because people go by and see Tropicana and they think the swimming pool. No, 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 the swimming pool has become the center for 40 jobs. 40 jobs are being generated in an old swimming pool. Don't tear it down, let us use it. Till you see to figure out what you want to do. We're generating local food at high quality, recycling all the coffee, this time from Douwe Egberts. And then, oops, too fast, come on, go back. I think your battery is low. Can you just use your finger instead? Yeah. And then we're doing, of course, value adding. This is all the value adding we're doing with coffee. No, 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 no. Be nice to me. Are you working for Novozymes? Okay, there we go again. There we are. Now, slowly, the next one. Yeah, do it again. Here we are. Yes, here we are. So, we're making, of course, croquettes from mushrooms. We're making And all of that is done commercially. So we now have in the Netherlands 4 industrial companies based on mushrooms, grown on what? On coffee waste. And why is that important? Because coffee, in the end of the day, what we ingest is only 0.2%. 99.8% is not consumed. That means in resource efficiency terms, we can improve resource efficiency factor 500. Have we heard that lately? Not only resource efficiency, we beat the value that we generate, that you generate or someone generates with a cup of coffee. The €2 or the €3 you pay for a cup of coffee, we will do €500 for that same volume of a kilo of coffee. That is growing the economy without exhausting the earth. And how do we do it? Well, we start, of course, with coffee. We have the mushrooms, but then you have waste from the mushrooms, and the waste of the mushrooms is great feed for the chickens. Now, if you're in the city, you don't get the chickens, but you have a dog or a cat, they eat it as well. Just when they're a kitty or a small dog, you have them eat it, they'll eat it forever. You know what you pay for Purina? It's ridiculous. The slaughterhouse waste imported from America, and you pay for that, the amount of money you pay? I mean, could we wake up and say, hey guys, this is better for our dogs? And then, of course, now we have this clothing. I saw, even Tobias, you're wearing Patagonia, right? But do you have the Patagonia with the coffee in it? That's the new brand. So Patagonia now puts 8% coffee in its clothing. Why? It absorbs body odor. Now, normally, body odor chemistry is in the range of $3,000 to $4,000. Now it's from the waste of my coffee. So how much margin do you take, and how much margin does the farmer take? We can talk about the big cake we can cut up and distribute. This is generating value. But it's only the beginning, because now we put it in carpets. We can do it with nylon 6. We can do it with Interface, with Deso, with Target. And then we put it in foams for insulation foams for refrigerators or cars. Because also refrigerators in cars are very interested to have odor absorbance. And it's coffee, and it's a physical effect. It's not a chemical effect, so it repeats itself all the time. And finally, we're now putting it in paints, because when you paint, it smells uncomfortable. You open the windows. Now, it doesn't smell anymore. Now, how much value chain do we have? I mean, it's great that you're paying fair trade coffee and organically farmed coffee at a 20-30% premium, but now we're giving the farmer ×4. This is how we lift the poverty out of its situation, because we can pay because it has value. And of course, would you ever expect Nestlé to get into carpets, insulation foams, clothing? Not only that, even Nestlé would never get into something like mushrooms. I had a board meeting with Nestlé. I was at Davos, and the chairman of Nestlé said, Professor Pauli, what you've proposed is absolutely magnificent. Why don't you come to our board and tell us our board? And the board stood up and clapped in their hands and said, Professor Pauli, this is absolutely fabulous. We have 3 million tons of coffee waste every year. That would be 400,000 jobs we could generate. And in the board, everyone nice and dandy. And then, of course, it goes down to the system. And then I got a message back saying that, Professor Pauli, you must keep in mind that we are not in the mushroom business, and we are not planning to go into the mushroom business. So therefore, our technical committee has decided we will burn everything and generate some extra fuel and cut down on our carbon footprint. What would you do when you hear that story? Would you give him the finger as well? I mean, this is insane. A company refusing to have a $3 billion additional business in mushrooms, but since they've decided they're not in the mushroom business, they're not going to do it. Could you at least let someone else do it? Do you really have to insist on burning everything? Because now you can put in your corporate social responsibility report that you are cutting down your fuel costs by burning your coffee waste? I mean, do you sense the difference? This obsession of cost cutting versus a generation of value? We believe that with coffee alone, we can generate at least 50 million additional jobs in the world. 50 million. Just using the waste that we have available. Let's move on. Shoes. Who wears Timberland? Someone here buys Timberland, I'm sure. Have you seen this label on your shoes? Drink it, wear it. It means that the sole is 20% coffee. Kick off your shoes, no smell. Nice. Anyway, let's move to another place. What is this? This is a typical waste dump from a mine. It's where people don't take you on tourist trips. When you go to South Africa, they make you see elephants, lions, buffaloes, but they don't make you see this. Now, this is the reality. 40% of the country has these tailing dams, which are leaching acids into the underground water system, which is providing dust so that the children are guaranteed to have asthma for 3-4 generations down the road. And what's the whole world doing? Looking the other way. I can't stand that. I'm sorry. So what do? We turn it into paper. We've mobilized $1 billion in investments to turn stone waste from mines into paper. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, paper. People say, that's not possible. Well, if you think it's not possible, may I ask you to leave the room? Because I only want people who say, yes, and how would it be possible? Because our mentality today is everything must fit in our box. And if it doesn't fit in the box, we say it's not possible. It can't be done. It is not allowed by the law. Out of the room, will you please? We're needing to get the people together to say, yes, we'll make it happen. Not just like this guy said, yes, we can. No. Yes, we will make it happen. Because this guy who said, yes, we can, he didn't do anything. Now, paper made from stone. We're crushing the stones to 3-4 micron. We're taking all the minerals out of there. That is our first cash flow. Second cash flow, we have still some bigger, rougher particles that we turn into tiles, bricks for walking, not for driving. And then we have the leftover, and that we turn with 20% high-density polyethylene, which is recycled, 100% recycled, we turn that into paper. 80% stone, 20% recycled plastics. And that's paper. We're today at a 1 million ton facility production. 1 million ton we're making. And where is it? In China. You know, there's something nice about the Chinese. I know we have all of our criticism about the Chinese. But when I sat down with the Director General of the Ministry of Industry and Energy of China and said, this is stone paper, and we don't need water to produce it, he said, where is it produced? In Taiwan. He said, I'll send over a couple of people. 16 months later, the factory is operational. Who's the investor? 2 mining companies. It's obvious. Why can't we just do that? I mean, I've been to Kiruna. I mean, the Swedes always pride themselves on being so clean and so nice. Just go to Kiruna and look at the 8th largest iron mine in the world with a massive disaster they're creating there. I've proposed them we could make stone paper out of it. They said, oh, but it's going to look a little bit dark. So what? We can make paper trays out of it. We can make food packaging out of it. It doesn't have to be the white paper to write on. You can turn into multiple products. So today, I even have an unexpected partner. I mean, I never thought I would work with ExxonMobil. I mean, with my green background, it's like kissing Beelzebub or Satan. But they came forward and said, you know, we'll do 100% stone paper. It's 12,000 tons of stone paper. That viabilizes my factory. I got a buyer. I'm in business. The way we approach these things is a new product. It's made to work. Let's turn it into a purchase order. And only when we have purchase orders, we start planning forward. That means we need to talk to people who are prepared to imagine beyond what is normal today. That's called innovation. Innovation in the business model. Now, this shoe, what do you think this shoe is made out of? Stones. It's 60% stone, 40% high-density polyethylene. The great advantage is you will never get athlete's foot. It's mineral. It's pure mineral. No fungus can ever grow in it. And what do you think the sole is made of? Coffee, thank you. Yes, you're learning fast. Yeah, you're doing good. Now I'm going to come to something which is specifically presented to our Scandinavian friends. This is what we call in Swedish löjrom. Kalixlöjrom. It's not just any löjrom, it's kalixlöjrom. And you know, when you see this, normally they serve it like this, right? I mean, it's not a little spoon you get, you just put it straight on your toast. But what people seem to forget is that that's what you got to do. Now, just look at this picture and think. Here is a farmer who has a cow with a calf. and he's going to the slaughterhouse, and he's going to have the cow slaughtered with the calf. What do you think? Insane! But with fish, no problem. They're cold-blooded. We don't care. And then we have a problem with quotas for fisheries, right? There's not enough fish in the sea. It's not about just the nets. It's about our stupid behavior after 6,000 years of fishing, that we're still fishing with nets and we're still taking the eggs as a luxury. How do you want sustainability ever if you're killing the females with eggs? So what do? We learn from the whales. How do the whales fish? Well, the whales have been fishing, by the way, for about 4 or 5 million years. So we, with 6,000 years, we have a bit of a disadvantage. The whales never use nets, no hooks. Interesting. What do they use? Air bubbles. Oh, holy smoke. They're just putting air bubbles? Yes. And they're putting air bubbles in such a way that the krill and the fishes go up. The dolphins do it exactly the same way. But the whale, of course, has a lot of air. The dolphins have to do it in teams. So you get 20, 30 dolphins together. They all start bubbling air, and all the fish goes up, with one exception. The air bubble never carries the female, the heavy female with eggs, up. They save them. Wow, how ethical. This is what I call ethical fishing. The other type of fishing where we drag everything over the ground and we just scoop everything up, and by the time the fish come up, 80% is dead, pressed to death. And then we put them in freezing water so they can generate some acids, because if a fish dies, and when you die and I die in freezing water, we produce acids to avoid freezing. That's how we can survive perhaps 5 minutes longer. So what do we do with the fish? Very simple. We have a new boat. We've designed a new catamaran. I just want to show you how we operate. If we see the big picture, we got to go down to the detail. And so we designed a catamaran. And the catamaran has a system to create the bubbles. We do not yet know how to create the bubbles so that the females are not caught. We still do not master that. So in the meantime, we have the bubbles, we catch the fish goes into 2 hulls, and there we have the water at 4 degrees Celsius. And 4 degrees Celsius, the fish hibernates. The hibernating fish goes through an ecosystem, an ecographic system, yes, like we check if we're expecting a boy or a girl. We use exactly the same machine. We still can't speed it up fast enough because we used to do 1 lady at a time and take 30 minutes. So what we're now doing with our researchers is we're looking how can we speed it up so we can look at thousands of fishes. And when there's a female with eggs, boom, back in the sea. Isn't this logical? Doesn't this make sense? You know that a sunfish has 300 million eggs? You know that the Calyx leurum is caught at the volume of 20 to 50,000 at the time? That all should have been fishes. All of it. So if we want sustainability, we better stop killing the females with eggs. And we better design a new business model around it. And who's the first country? Which is the first country to be interested? Of course not the European Union. When I sat down with the commissioners, they say, Professor Pauli, no new technologies, please. We got to agree on quotas. So we're doing the first project in Agadir, Morocco. This boat operates with solar energy and wind only. We have no more fuel. And how do we finance it? Because every fishing fleet in the world is subsidized by the government so that the cost of fuel is lower. A normal fishing boat is 250,000 to 500,000 tons of fuel. That is subsidized. We cut out the subsidy, and with the elimination of the subsidy, we have the budget to do what? To buy the boat. It takes 12 years. With a return of 8% on a boat, that's a good business. We're building boats today. They're being sold. How many in Europe? 0. Why? We're worried about quotas. That's perhaps why I do little work in Europe. I go where it's possible to do. Coming to the end. I have a hard time convincing people about some of the things that I do because they think, der Pauli, der spinnt, sagen die Deutsche. He's rattling on. I invite you, come and see any of our 188 projects in the world. I invite you to come and see them. We've done them. We've mobilized 4 billion euros in capital, and we've generated 3 million jobs. That's what we've done. And we don't brag about it, we don't talk about it, and you will not find many details on the internet because I'm not interested in building egos over internet. What we need to do is to have more people who do things on the ground. Make it happen, fast. Because we don't do it fast. We know the reports of Lester Brown, we know the reports of World Watch Institute, we know the reports of all of them, and I'm sick and tired of hearing the bad news. I'm only working on making things happen. Since I can't do it with many people, I talk to children. You know, children have one great advantage. They don't make a distinction between fantasy and reality. For children, everything is reality. So I build on that great capacity of children to look at stone paper and say, "Daddy, daddy, daddy, paper made from stone." And Dad said, "Not possible." "What do you know, Dad?" "Of course it's possible, because even those fables are printed on stone paper." I have the great privilege that the Chinese government has decided that all my fables will be published for free and distributed for free to all Chinese children. That's why my books go in the billions and not in the millions. It's again a Chinese decision. Try to get a European government to approve a new book for school. I wish you good luck. So what do? Come on. I have today more than 200 fables. 200 fables today bring us about 6,000 scientific subjects to children. 6,000. They understand what the science is for, but it's not the science that mom and dad knows. It's the science that mom and dad does not know. Like, how does the apple get up in the tree? You know? I mean, we all learn how the apple comes down from the tree. But someone in the process, someone neglected to tell us how it got up there in the first place. And I tell you, kids love to know how to do something against the law. So we're going against the law of gravity. This is how it works. I've published this book. We are with 188 projects. I'm bringing out a new book next year. We are focusing on implementation. And my message to you is, we need everyone. This is a new field. There is no experience in it. But one thing, whenever you do something new and innovative, make certain you include the children. Because if we don't inspire that next generation, as grandparents, we're not going to have lots of fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pauli. This was truly inspiring, and I can reassure you that if I ever go back to university, I will be taking a Master of Brilliant Adaptation. I'd like you to stay on stage for just a second, because I hope that there's someone out there with a question that Mr. Pauli cannot answer. And anybody wants to be second, because I know nobody wants to be the first. There's number 2. Go ahead. We have a mic. And please introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Christopher Lytke Jørgensen from the Technical University of Denmark. Regarding your stone paper, what happens once you have finished using that paper? Do you combust it locally? Don't you then just get back to having like stone dust everywhere? Or what happens?
Thank you for the question. Stone paper is a mineral. Therefore, it's recyclable forever. Now you have 2 options. The first option is that your polymer you're mixing is a synthetic polymer made from petroleum, but that is not biodegradable for 2,000 years. I mean, that's the problem we have with these bottles. The polypropylene half-life is 2,000 years. So we're using plastics that do not degrade. So now we can print a Bible and say this Bible will be good for 2,000 years. Nice, huh? I mean, the normal paper, you can't do that. So there is one small market, which is long-term use of the paper. Then you have the short-term uses of paper. And there we look at either the recycled polymers or fissile polymers. We use polymers from renewable resources. Now, these polymers allow us to actually put it together with any food type, with anything. The last thing you want to do is put it into the bin with recycled paper, because that requires too much water. Our paper does not dissolve in water. It is water resistant. Actually, you can write in it in the water. That's one of the reasons why ExxonMobil uses it, because you can be outside in the rain and take notes. It is no problem. Your ink sticks to the surface without surface chemicals. So What is the real solution? The real solution is like the one we're working with Exxon on, is that the company recycles in-house the paper. That means what comes out of the company's doors is not the paper to be recycled, it are the pellets that will go straight back to the factory. Since in the recycling you don't need to de-ink and you don't need to use water either, you have made it very easy. Today the de-inking is the critical factor, and you can only therefore produce paper where there is a massive consumption, massive availability of water. So now the city of Johannesburg will be the first city in the world that will only use stone paper. Only use stone paper. It will get mandated. So in this way we create the cycles. In this way we create the jobs. In this way we generate value.
Yes, please. Just wait for the mic and please introduce yourself.
My name is Malaika Thompson and I'm a psychologist interested in this field. And my question is, when you saw the orangutan, most people who has made a lot of money, they would choose to look the other way. How did you manage not to keep on being cynical? Because some people are very cynical.
You know, I had a 50-50% partner, and my partner actually was a Dane. And my partner said, you know, you have a contract with me. And the management contract means that I'm the silent partner, you're the active partner. You got to continue managing this corporation to its next level of success. And I said, no, I have to redesign the product. Can't be anymore. You know, at that moment, it's an ethical question. And at that moment, I follow a very simple principle, which I've been doing ever since I got into business. I look at the world through the eyes of my children. How are my kids looking at me in 20 years down the road when I made that decision? And I prefer to be poor and lose the whole business than to continue and know it is festering in me that I didn't do the best I could. And that is the reason why I wrote one of the fables. Why can't I steal less? And that is one of my first fables I wrote. Because stealing less is stealing, right? Polluting less is polluting. Damaging less forest is damaging the forest. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not approving of sustainable forestry. It is destroying the ecosystem, and I'm not approving of that. So I became an anarchist for some, and I became a rebel for others. But to me, it is an ethical question. Are you living in peace with yourself when you make those decisions? That somehow money and market was more worth than this wonderful world we want to leave to our children. And there are, unfortunately, not enough people who make those decisions. But I hope that when they see what we can do anyway, that more will step forward and do it. Thank you.
I think we'll close it for here from now. Thank you very much, Gunter Pauli. It was really inspiring.
Thank
Give it
you.
a big hand.
Thank you.